We're back! It's Christopher again. We are on the come up, talking about the raw, the real, the nitty, the gritty, the road to success, and keeping it real up in here. Today we're talking about something that keeps coming up. We're talking about the it factor and whether or not you are born with it or if it's something that you can grow into and learn and cultivate. This is a hot topic.
Very hot.
It's a hot take.
You might not be able to handle it at home.
Yeah.
Try to hang in there, though.
If you're sensitive and you don't like to hear the truth, this
Right.
is not the podcast for you today. Not today. But I want to start out by asking Christopher, let's define this. What do we think the it factor is? What is it?
Right. So, anytime you give me a topic, I'm intrigued, I'm excited, I'm ready. As soon as you said, hey, let's get together and talk about it factor, I was like, shit. Because it is controversial at times.
Yeah.
It is polarizing. The it factor is something you cannot teach.
Can't teach it.
Something that people are pretty much born with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're born with it. It is just one aspect of your person that separates you from other performers.
Right.
It does not mean more talented. It means there's that energy about you that you just can't teach. And no one can deny it. A lot of people are jealous of it. But it definitely separates out the, ensemble performers from the, Whitney Houstons of the world. It's unique, and there are a lot of different factors. I've thought about it a lot, but I am firmly convinced it can be taught. And what it does is you have a natural ability, just stepping out on stage with your eyes, communication, your presence, their understanding of the responsibility of your talent, that it automatically moves people.
Right.
They can't take their eyes off you. They get you, and it happens from a very young age with most people.
Mm-hmm.
They get it, which is strange.
It is a strange
and
thing.
It manifests in different ways, but I just don't think you can teach.
Yeah, and I also was thinking about today on the way here that it's not even something that's specific to like a performer. Like it doesn't, a person who has the it factor has it everywhere. Right. And it's not, I think you're right, it doesn't have to do with their talent because the person that has it can put it into anything. Yes,
and like the thing that I thought about with that as well, they call it different things in other areas.
Yeah.
In politics, they call it charisma. So you're looking at Bill Clinton, who wasn't the most savory individual, but he was charismatic as hell.
Yeah.
Barack Obama, when he speaks to people,
yes,
there are just people that have the it factor. Hitler also had it. It's not everyone who's good.
Yeah, it's not everyone who's good.
There are people who are extremely charismatic. That's why we have cults.
Yeah.
And people who commit mass, tragedies, because there are people who have that charisma that don't use it for good all the time. And we don't always use it for good either. But But it manifests in different ways. But it's because it has nothing to do with talent.
Yeah.
It has to do with something about your energy, your understanding, and your connection. And the way you carry yourself and conduct yourself, that just people get you.
So this is a big conversation, and actually I've been doing a lot of reading about this. Have you ever read the Art of Seduction?
No.
I literally gave this book to Phoenix because Phoenix has it.
She has it, for sure.
And since you went there, some people use it in the wrong. Some people who are prone to narcissism, prone to anything in the dark triad, Machiavellism, psychopath, sociopath, that do not know how to work with this kind of energy and use it to manipulate people, places, things. That is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But also it is something, in the Art of Seduction, it basically talks about leaders. Cleopatra is one of the people in the book who are magnetic. That's like the word that they use a lot. And I basically think it has to do with understanding your own energy in a way where you can like project it out, where you're not needy, you're magnetic. Like you draw things to you, and
absolutely.
And if you're using it in a performance setting, like you're really just bringing out more of your light.
People just want to watch you.
People just want to watch you. If you're using it to manipulate people, I mean, that's a whole different story.
We've done it.
It's sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do.
Have you ever gotten upgraded on a flight? Have you ever gotten an upgrade on your rental car?
Yes, I have.
Have you ever not waited in line to go in somewhere at a club?
Hell yeah.
You know when.
Mm-hmm.
And Mark would be like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. But, I mean, sometimes it works to your benefit. I mean, we're not actually hurting people, but there's just some people call it charm, or they take it as charm. But yeah, I mean, you can we know how to turn people around. We know how to have an effect on people if we want to.
Right.
And you can use it for good or evil. And that's why it's important with someone Phoenix's age. When kids are that young, they need guidance.
Yes.
They need role models because all they know is that everyone's looking at them and giving them attention, and they're not sure why because they haven't learned how to harness or exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So that's when you teach that responsibility of like, number one, don't be insecure because it's going to happen the rest of your life.
Yep.
When you walk in a room, people are going to turn. And number two, manifest it to make a difference in people's lives.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Yeah. And I was reading this whole article just about how people get flipped the other way and how it happens in childhood. How it's like a negative experience combined with this kind of like that type of personality where it's like someone literally has had an experience that's kind of turned them into like using that energy that way.
Yes.
It's a like what I was reading is a wild thing, and that's probably not where we're going today, but what you just said is very much like when kids are young and they have that, and as teachers like we really have to. This is why it's important to like teach kids how to be good people. Responsibility. Accountability.
You know, the thing is that when they're that young too, it's really strange now being an adult. I can look and see it. I've only had a couple of experiences, but extremely talented performers who had the it factor and their parents were not keeping guard on that. And it becomes very ugly. The kid becomes very ugly very fast.
Yeah.
You can tell a kid who is manipulative and who's also charming.
Yeah.
And when you see children manipulating adults even, it becomes very ugly very fast.
Yeah.
And that's when you start heading down that path of like narcissism and all that stuff.
Yeah. So where do you think that it comes from though? Like why do I know, like God.
It's probably not, I mean, could be genetic. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly it runs in your family.
I'm lucky. We're lucky.
If you meet my family, it's not that they're not wonderful people. They would rather dig a hole in the ground and hide than have people watch them.
Right.
Or perform for people or be stared at. They don't want attention. They have no desire for anything like that. They're, I mean, you know, like painfully shy to a certain extent. Right. No one in my family is like, I'm like the only one. Unicorn.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know where it comes from, but no one tells you. It just starts happening.
That's true. No one tells you. And then, but like as a teacher, like, because I've had parents, I actually had somebody, the first guest on the podcast, I think it was the first guest, had asked me like, can you tell when a kid has the it factor? And what do you do when they don't?
There's still hope. No, this is where I say it gets tricky because
this is where,
we sound like assholes.
This is the conversation though. Like, can you teach a kid to have that?
No.
Okay.
You can work towards it, and that's part of performance. Coming out of your shell, engaging the audience, being confident with eye contact, being mature, but it's never going to get to the level where it is naturally.
Yeah.
The way that I equate it is kind of like I said, like major musicians that change you, Aretha Franklin and Whitney Houston, Celine Dion, people who are iconic, Cher, and then like people who are great performers who are talented, but they just don't do it from step on the stage. Like one person I think of, I don't know if you're familiar with Dua Lipa. Dua Lipa has been made fun of online quite a bit and been called dull as a performer, even when she's singing, dancing, full production.
Right.
It's just not quite there.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that she's not amazing, super talented. I love all of her songs. It's just not that thing. I want to say it's a fire, but fire is something you can work on.
Yeah.
There's just this thing, and everyone can see it. People act like they can't.
Yeah.
But here's the really hard part. When you're in a situation, and I don't have kids, so I'm glad I don't deal with this. You're at a situation in a studio and your kid dances and your kid is very talented. They don't have it though. It is hard for other parents to watch the one or two children that continuously come out in every number and steal the show.
Right.
Because they're watching them too. Because they've got it.
Yeah.
They can see that kid has it. I don't know. They just show a sign of maturity and understanding and connection. And a lot of times that causes jealousy.
Yeah.
But it's okay if your child isn't exhibiting this like platinum level star power. They can learn and grow. Again, like I said, in the ensemble, there's places in the ensemble where you can fit develop your talent, develop your acting, push yourself, grow your self-confidence. It's just like you're going to be a one-hit wonder or you're going to be an icon.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, Dua Lipa has a great career.
Yeah, and her feelings were very hurt.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, too. We've said it before. If you tell someone they don't have the it factor, they seem genuinely shocked or hurt.
Right.
Because they don't know they don't have it. But the people who have it know they have it.
Right.
So her feelings were genuinely hurt when people were like, she's kind of like watching paint dry even when she's working hard.
Yeah.
I mean, she sounds great. She's wonderful. And I think she has worked on her performance ability. But, I mean, it just doesn't do it. And I think that's why some people don't reach the level they're hoping to reach.
And
you won't reach certain levels without it.
So this is where so there's a lot of things at stake here at play. So there's the talent.
Mm-hmm.
And you can always work on that. You can always work on the skills. You can always work on the hard work ethic, the dedication. You can work on passion. You can work on fire.
You're in control.
A person, it doesn't even have to be a kid, can have all of those things. And I still think like hard work is going to be like really up there with it factor.
Uh-huh.
Like, because you can have the it factor and do nothing with it or use it for bad and like...
It's only cute for so long.
Right. So what do you tell... Like, okay, so his question to me was, what do you do with a kid when they don't have it? And my response was, what, like kind of what you're saying. I was like, there's other things we can work on.
Play their strengths.
Because, yeah, this is about... It's about understanding yourself, knowing your strengths, and moving forward regardless. Not everybody is going to be a dancer. Not everybody's going to be famous on stage, but it's like when you're working with children or you're working with students, you try to bring out whatever their best is.
So the way that I describe this, we had this at work as well. There are 4 qualities of a good leader. I think there are 4 qualities of a good performer. Respect, development, which means you can be a teacher, celebrating other people, and then inspiring. And they always ask which one is the hardest. And I'm like, well, respect should be given. We're human beings. Celebrating other people should be natural, even though we get jealous. Developing people, you can always learn how to be a teacher. Yeah. But inspiring people, you can't teach how to inspire people. So
you're so good.
Yeah. That's just, you can't teach it. You have to have that fire. So there are a lot of kids, adults, performers who genuinely love dancing. It makes them feel amazing in their heart, and they get up on stage and it makes them feel good and they love it. And they're talented and they're really good. But that doesn't help the audience. It's the people who come out that are 7 years old who are storytellers and who know the motivation behind every movement that they're doing, and they've always understood and they just get it. Yeah. And even if their feet aren't the most pointed, they're selling a story to you. You're gonna pick the one that has the it factor every time.
It's that word is inspire. It's inspiration.
Yeah, it's inspiring and it's an ability to connect. Yeah. It's almost like a psychic level thing. It's something about your energy that your doors are more open than other people.
You're a real, authentic human.
And you can't help it. Yeah. Because you see very young performers doing it.
Yeah. Okay, so in day-to-day life, like, how do you know when someone has it? Because I feel like I see, not all the time, but like when I meet somebody that is like not out of dance, that has it, I'm like drawn to them. I'm like, I gotta know you, I gotta talk to you. And that doesn't happen to me all the time, but like when we're not in our space of work, I mean, I'm all dance all the time, but I still find people in the world where I'm like, oh, there's something about you, and I'm like intrigued by that.
That's it. That's it. Yeah. It's like gaydar.
Yeah, totally.
The thing is though, like when you ask the question, how do you know? That's an impossible question for me to answer because real sees real. Yeah. So like, if you have it, you connect as soon as you make eye contact with someone else, because not many people have the capability to give us something that we want their energy. We're used to everyone pulling our energy because we have it. Yeah. So when you look at someone, you're like, oh, whatever it is you're giving off, I want to come over here and warm my hands in it. Or like, I want to sit down and pull some of that from you. You can see it. You recognize it. So you have to ask someone who doesn't have it. how they can
We need
tell.
somebody on here that doesn't have it.
But what they're gonna say is like, oh, her turns are really good, her kicks are really high, and they no.
I keep
There's a
saying
thing-
that.
There's a thing, and that's probably why it is such a like non-descriptive word.
Yeah.
Just it. Like
Yeah.
it's not that or this, it's just it. Like what is it?
Yeah.
That's part of the mystery of it.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to describe. But it's there, and you know when it's there. And you see people, that's when people say it in a million different ways. They'll be like, that girl, there's just something special about her.
Mm-hmm.
Or man, that one there, I just, couldn't stop watching her. Couldn't
Yeah.
take my eyes off of her. Like, she was really killing it,
Right.
And people will always point out, like, I'm so proud of my granddaughter, but man, let me tell you, there's this other kid
Totally.
up there, and that's the one that you connect to. And they just have a different, like, wattage on their light bulb.
Yeah, and I've been trying, I've been doing all these judges critiques where I'm watching kids solos from all over the country, which has been really good because I'm just seeing other dancers.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been trying to articulate what it is that I'm looking for in 1,000 different ways. Because people are always like some of the complaints that the parents are like, these judges just keep telling my kid to smile. Or they say something like, go full out, or extend your movement. But what we're looking for is that.
Yeah.
Is the it.
Whole-bodied nervous system understanding of what you're doing.
Yeah, and so I feel like, I think this might be the answer, because I'm going through things and I'm like, okay, you can body it this way, you can go through your dynamics, you can get deeper into your storytelling, but I'm like, you don't understand that. Like, you don't have that in there, and I could say it to you, and some kids will get it.
Yeah.
But half the time, maybe more than half the time, it's just like, it doesn't ever land.
Yeah. You can have someone who's performing and they are not connecting. You can give them a demonstration. You can explain the lyrics to them.
Yeah.
You can show them exactly step by step, spoon feed them. That's what we call it in acting. Spoon feed them their lines. All they have to do is regurgitate what you just told them, and they're still going to give you.
Yeah.
It may be great technique, but and then there's someone you can show a combination one time, and they connect with it so swell that they show you a part of your choreography that you didn't even imagine when you were creating it.
Yeah.
And that's it.
I love that.
That's it. There are students that I work with that I'm super proud of their ethic, and I see the struggle and I see the uphill climb, and then there are students that walk in the room and I can talk to them like they're 35 years old, explain what I want to see more of, and they take it and deliver it and go above and beyond the next time.
It's
and
almost like they're an old soul.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's because insecurity and immaturity is avoiding eye contact. It's avoiding connection. It's shying away. It's making yourself small. And when you're so young, it's very unexpected that you're confident and comfortable enough. There's just something in you that needs to connect with other people, and you have something that needs to be shared, and you got to get it out of you.
Yeah. Okay, so 2 things. So what do you do, and this has happened to me before, when you see that a kid has it, but they don't know that they have it, or they haven't really been working with it. They haven't come into it, but you can see it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's not fully there.
It's like ADHD, or the energy is misguided. It's
Right.
just everywhere.
Right.
You got to pull them in, reel them in.
Yeah.
You have it. Once they start listening to you and trusting you,
Yeah.
they can reel it in. You show them what it's like to harness that power, and that is a huge responsibility for dance teachers.
Yeah.
It's when you find that student and you're like, I don't know what it is, and you're like, you've got so much potential.
Yeah, and you
when
know
you
it.
tell someone they have potential, you can't tell how pointed their feet are going to be eventually. You can't tell how flexible, but you can tell that it's there.
Yeah.
And maybe some life circumstances have pushed it down a bit or squelched it some, but if you just get them wound up enough and get them, it'll go.
Yeah. There's that, and there's always I've been in the other situation too where it's I know you have it and you're letting so many things get in the way of it.
Oh yeah.
And it's
self-sabotage.
Self-sabotage.
It's because everyone needs your energy. So if I want to be an amazing choreographer, a great business partner with you, a co-host of a podcast, but I've got 3 boos on the side that are using me up and showing me affection, it's manipulation, and you feel like they want you, so you are giving that energy to them, and you're just giving it away in the wrong direction.
Right.
And that's when we have to teach the things we've talked about before,
accountability,
know who's worth it.
responsibility. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't waste your energy on.
Don't be a Lindsay.
Don't let the vampires get you. Don't. I have a thought for you. I actually wrote down some. Not that I was hosting this, but.
Yes, you are. We're co-hosting.
I had to prepare for this one because I was like, oh, I'm shook. We're both gonna be canceled. Talking about how we had it and y'all don't. So, I believe there are examples of people who have it.
Mm-hmm.
The common misconception is that if you have it, that you want attention or that you just like attention. I think there's a small sliver, like 15% of people who have it, who actually only allow that to happen when they're using their craft.
Yeah.
For example, celebrities like Meryl Streep.
I love Meryl Streep. Yes,
it.
yeah.
Every role she has is just like, but she doesn't want to walk a red carpet. She doesn't want to be photographed. She doesn't want to be. She just has to let it out with the craft.
Totally.
So that's a whole different it. Because we have the it that like can't shake it off. It goes to the club, church,
everywhere, to the grocery store,
the gynecologist. It is everywhere.
I'm trying to think if I know anybody like that. And Mark's like that.
Mark is like that.
Mark is totally the first person that comes to my mind.
That's exactly how I started the conversation.
Totally.
Yeah.
100%.
It's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Yeah.
So shy.
Yeah.
Does not want to be the center of the conversation, the center of attention. Is the first one to step back and push other people forward.
Yeah.
He's a listener, he's an observer. But the minute he starts his craft, like, it's it. That's it. He has it. And everybody says it too.
Yeah.
And he's still, he's very humble about it. But, I mean, and the same thing happens with us. I'm sure you're used to it as well. You start hearing it from people, and that's how you kind of understand when people are like, after the show, there's like the stars of the show, and you're young and in the back, and you're like, I was watching you the whole time.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, that's weird.
Yeah.
Weird flex, but okay. And it manifests too because I wasn't tall yet, but I knew when I would walk in a room, even at a young age, that people would turn and look.
Yeah.
I thought it was because I was gay.
Well, this is interesting though, and I wanted to ask you about this because you didn't dance when you were younger.
Mm-mm.
And if you guys have been following, Christopher came on and told his whole story, which is super interesting. If you haven't heard it, you need to go back. But I wanted to ask you because okay, so you're saying that you had it and you noticed this, but then somebody pulled out of you that not only saw that you had it, but just, I mean, I feel like you could have walked into any type of art and you would have had it. And you would have just, because that's what it comes with it.
Yeah. Whatever I choose to put my mind to.
Yeah, but you walked into the studio and basically were like swept up.
Yeah, and this is what I mean by teachers.
Yeah.
And by people can see it. I took a 6 week dance class. It was 6 weeks ballet, 6 weeks modern, 6 weeks jazz.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. 1 semester. And it was taught by like an adjunct professor. It wasn't even like a full professor. We were at the ballet bar doing tendus. I was feeling myself. The director of the dance program came up to check her mailbox. She walked through, she paused, she looked at me for a minute, and then she stopped and just started watching. And then she left the room, and when she came back, she had 2 other dance professors with her.
And this was like your first dance class?
It was my first, that wasn't my actual first day. The first time I ever took a dance class.
Taking classes.
I was 19. 19, yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, and they just stood and like watched me for a while, and I didn't balk. I just kept going, and they left the room and talked for a little bit. And at the end of the class, they're like, "Can we talk to you?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "You have something. We can see it, and you should be dancing."
So how did you? So before that, did you know that you had something special? Did you know it was going to be dance though?
I was in show choir in high school.
Okay.
So we did movement.
Yeah.
And because when I started in the 9th grade, normally it was like you're in the back row in the 9th grade, and then you're in the middle in 10th grade, and then 11th grade you're on the front, and then 12th grade you're the dance captain. Mm-hmm. 9th grade, the minute after we auditioned, they had me on the front row. Okay. Which caused animosity with like seniors.
Right.
And then they had me as dance captain almost immediately.
So you were a natural mover.
Natural mover.
But nobody ever told
natural
you.
Performer.
Nobody ever. I mean, were other people like, "Hey, you're really amazing"?
the whole time, like growing up, people would say things that now looking back make sense. I was thinking, I had a teacher in the second grade. She wasn't a teacher. She was a support staff secretary.
Yeah.
At my school, and I used to draw pictures of dresses and clothes. I would design things.
Yeah.
And I would just go by her office and sit and show her my designs. And I'd be like, "Do you want to keep one? Do you want to?" And she would keep them. And I know her now. She's in Vermont. But she kept a binder of everything I drew that I gave her because she was like, I knew then you were going to be someone and something.
Wow.
And I wanted to hold on to it. And she was like, I just knew. Like, I knew. And she was like, you have it. Like, this is it. And it was just little things like that. And with whatever I decided to do, I was involved in various things. I mean, I started singing in choir or, everything. Even at church. Like, people would be like, I would play the piano in church one Sunday. I would sing, stand up in the front, and I was giving performance. It was me, Jesus, Luther Vandross.
I am dead.
I legit was the kid, like, at 13 that would wear a wireless mic, start in the back of the church, and come down the center aisle while I was singing my song. I didn't walk up to the lectern and put my lyrics down.
Wow.
I gave performance.
Wow.
And I loved it. I still love, religious music as well. But yeah, it was just that. And people were like, God, it's just so cool.
So what made you trust, like at that moment when you got pulled aside in your ballet class, was that the moment that you were like, when did you know? Because because you had all these experiences, like you must have shifted a lot because you were in school for science.
Biology.
And whatever was said to you was enough to make you be like, oh, yes.
I balked. Like, I don't know about this, but they were ready for it because they were like, what's your minor? And I was like, I don't have one yet. And they're like, perfect. Well, you can't minor in dance at University of Alabama, but you can major, so you could be a double major. Yeah. They're like, this could work for you. And I was like, I never even thought about it. I've got to call my mom back home and tell her, on top of medical school, now I have these 3 eccentric dance professors trying to derail my future doctor's dreams. Yeah. And they were like, okay, just next semester, let us put you just in ballet and jazz. Take it. If you hate it, don't do it. But audition for the company and audition for the student choreography show. They put me in advanced everything. Yeah. But by day 2, I was like in love and just loved it.
So you fell in love with it.
But I didn't add the major right away. I just signed up for a couple more classes, and then within like a week or 2 weeks, I was like, yeah, we're doing this. Yeah. Because it made sense. They sold me on it. When you apply for medical school, everybody's a chemistry minor. Right. If you apply for medical school and you have a dance major as your second major, it shows right and left brain. Yeah. They're like, your chances of getting accepted into medical school are
They did the whole thing.
They knew what they were doing.
Right.
There was one other dance and biology major at school at that time. But besides that, they were going to say whatever they had to get me to do it.
That is just so interesting to me
I was
because...
hesitant. I was nervous. But I trust people. There's certain people I trust. And Cornelius I trusted.
Yeah. And then, but at what point, so that happened. And then at what point were you like, because you have to if you haven't grown up in this environment in a studio where, there are certain kids who know that they have it and they have that potential and their teachers nurture them a certain way. You're in this environment. You have a quick turnaround as far as the training to New York because that was quick for you.
Very fast.
How did you get that? You just flip-flop careers. How did you understand I have it and I know I can do it?
Once I started in class a week or 2, just even learning the warm-ups going into it and then teaching combinations and dancing with women who had been dancing since they were 3. Yeah. I knew I was keeping up. Yeah. I could see in the mirror. Yeah. I didn't have the foundation, but I could match their movements and it was coming to me very fast. And the way it felt... natural. It was and that's why I never thought I'd be a teacher because it happened so easy for me. Yeah. That my teachers didn't teach me; they would just show me, and I would do it. Yeah. So I was like, "This is it."
Do you think that has to do with the it factor? Do you think everybody who has the it factor is quick pickup?
Yeah, and I'm not saying it had anything to do with intelligence, but typically people with the it factor are very adaptable, attentive,
so good.
detail-oriented, all that good stuff.
Observant.
So, yeah, and the thing is that once I started, I wanted the knowledge so much. When you feel that you're in the right place, I just took every dance class I could. Even the ones I wasn't signed up for, if I was free during that hour, I would go and take another dance class.
Yeah.
So, like, I was just like absorbing information. I could not get enough of it.
Wow.
Yeah. I was basically in my head trying to catch up to these people that were incredible.
Yeah.
That I danced with. And then I don't know, just something happened, and at some point I did catch up, and then I passed them.
How many of those people went on to have careers? Do you know?
Quite a few. There are quite a few. University of Alabama has a good amount of people who are like Broadway. We have a couple of Rockettes. Yeah, their program is massive now, and it's accredited. It was very much smaller when I was there. But yeah, you'd be surprised. I mean, I would say probably from my year, like maybe 3 to 6 of us went on to... There were 3 of us in Rockettes. 3 of us. So,
wow, that's a lot. I mean, that's good.
But I don't know, there was some kind of like energy when I was coming through the 2 years behind me, the 2 years younger than me as well. It was just like a unique talent pool. And we're all still really close friends. We lived in New York. Some of them are, influencers now. And we're a lot older, but yeah, we've got Broadway stars, we've got recording artists.
See, I asked this question in that way because I feel like I grew up opposite. Like, I didn't know that I had it. I had no understanding of that until way later. And that could just be the dynamics of this town. But which you probably had similar. I was gonna ask, though. I mean, you probably had similar.
Well, I was dancing in a college town, so it was very liberal. I was fine.
Yeah.
Because of your situation, or like bullying and intimidation and the imbalance of the population here, pushed it down.
I just feel like what I would have labeled it as, I just felt different.
Yeah.
And I couldn't put a finger on it, but like I'm listening to you talk about it and I'm like, oh, I had it. I had it in me, but I always just felt different because people would be like, oh, you're too much. Or your energy's too, like, bring it back. Or it would just be like, I'd walk in a space and people would look at me and I would just take it as, oh, something's wrong with me, or
I don't look like everybody in this town.
It could be. It was that, or it was just like, I don't know.
And I think we touched on this one time before too. Is that it is confusing and it's also empowering for any marginalized, like, person who's going through it, who has the factor, because you don't know if people are staring at you because you're brown.
Yeah.
Or they're staring at you because you've got it.
Yeah.
I didn't know if people were like, he's gay, look at the gay guy.
Yeah.
So a lot of times you can misinterpret the energy as people making fun of you or being mean.
Yeah.
And that happened a lot in my life. I was very defensive. Like,
yes.
What are you looking at?
Exactly.
Like, and you have to realize, like, they're just admiring. Like, they just want to be part of it. But, even Mark now, because I'm constantly watching, I know people are looking, and so a lot of times I look to see what their reaction would be, whether it's positive or negative. Because some people are just going to be gagged, and they're not going to like it. Yeah. And that's fine, too. I generally can laugh. But I'm just always observing how people are reacting to me. And Mark's like, you're, like, getting too caught up in this. Like, don't worry about it. It doesn't matter.
But that's, like, a product of having that, growing. And that's what I don't feel like I knew it was an it thing until I was, like, 28, 29. Like, late.
Yeah.
So I feel like sometimes that's my default. I'm like, why are you looking at me? Oh my God, I'm so uncomfortable. Rather than it's like, oh, that person's just looking because I have a thing.
Yeah. It can be uncomfortable at times, like stop staring. You want to snap at people. And then later on in life, and especially with culture now, like, I'm very aware of it when we go out at night. And if other people are drinking and they don't have a positive reaction because they're intimidated, then I'm like, are we in danger? Like, is our safety in danger for something?
Right.
Because they see you as a threat, or they need to put you in your place, and that is how people can be. Especially straight men are like that.
Yeah.
Not all.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm like, I gotta be careful. Like, again, I'm like, tone it down, keep it down, or there's nothing I can do about it, but I'm always hyper aware of my surroundings.
Totally. And then what do you think, like, what do you do to, like, if you have it, like, what do you do to nurture it? Like, grow it? Like, how do you work with it? So we're talking about, like, not even necessarily, like, kids. It can be anybody. Like, when you get good at your craft. Yeah. Because you have to understand how to utilize it.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully you have good mentors, good teachers. But it just takes, like, what we do. Go to class, learn different combinations, stretch yourself. You have to get work. Like, you need something to work with to test out. It's like sorcerer skills. It's like magic. And so you have this thing that you can work with, and then you got to put your magic on top of it to see how it works out. So like you can't always be with one teacher all the time,
Right.
because you'll get set in that style, and then you're repeating the same. You won't know the extent of how far you can go until someone really pushes you.
Yeah.
A guest teacher that takes you to a whole different place,
Yeah.
or a whole different style of dance, and you're like, wow, I've never opened up this side of myself. It's just like practice makes perfect. You've got to just put yourself and open yourself up to be in situations that are uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That you're getting in touch with feelings that you haven't felt before. So that way when you are ready to perform, audition, you're comfortable going there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I've noticed that about kids who have it, it's like they're a step ahead. They've already thought about what they're gonna say when the competition director puts the mic to their mouth. It's like perfect. They already know how they're gonna stand. They already know how they're gonna bow. Like they've observed. They've like already been like, okay, maybe I'm gonna be on the spot. Maybe it's gonna be uncomfortable. They process that before they get there. And I'm always so impressed with like, especially kids, like ability to like you said, 12, 10. They're like a 35-year-old up there with all the confidence and the awareness and the knowledge. They just like. People who have it, it's not just, I mean, it can be and just in their gift, but they tend to be observant to the point where it's like they can go into any kind of situation and it looks, even if they're not really prepared, they have a togetherness about a situation.
Yeah, and it's part of what you have to do to deliver everything the way you like we said before, you have to start learning very clearly whatever you're projecting. Make sure you're clear about what that is, because you don't want to give off the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is being hyper aware that people are always watching, so you have to stay ready.
Yeah.
You don't have to get ready, you got to stay ready. And then the last thing would be when you're observing and adapting to the environment, you see this is what I need to do when I go up there in order to make a good impression, to present well, and then you put your spin on it.
Yeah.
That's when you have it.
What do you think
you stand
about
properly, but you do it your own way.
Yeah, totally.
You put some swerve on it.
Yeah. Okay. This is just bringing something else up. What do you think about teachers? Do all teachers have it?
No.
Should they be teaching if they don't have it?
Yeah, they're not. I mean,
well, different teachers teach different things.
Teachers,
yeah.
Yes. There are a lot of people who are great technicians. They're like scientists and mathematicians.
Yeah.
And some students need that. They need muscle groups and visuals and scientific explanation for dance to click. And then
technique.
Yes. And then there are teachers who are artists who just want to get you off your leg and get you to release and try. And then there are teachers that are going to press you in class like, let's turn the lights down and I want you to open up your heart and I just want you to perform the hell out of this.
Yeah.
So, and you need a good balance of all those things. You need to be in touch with all those different sides. But no, teachers, no. That's why a lot of people are teachers.
Yeah.
Not to be mean.
No.
For me, for a lot of us, it was
somebody's gonna be mad about that.
Somebody's gonna be mad about that. Sorry. For me, it was a natural transition from dancer to choreographer to director, and then like teacher. Let's try teaching. Let's still choreography opportunities. Let's see how this goes. But I mean, we know the stories about people who try to go and make it, and they're not quite sure why it doesn't happen. But then they turn out to be fantastic teachers.
Right.
They just don't need to be teaching it.
Yeah.
And they don't.
Yeah.
People who don't have it don't know it. And they might, but you can't teach it.
Right. And that's, I feel like
they don't bring it up.
They don't.
They focus on turnout.
Right. Yeah. And I've had really good teachers like that. Who are like your alignment, your kinesiology, like all that stuff, like who would break me down, and I'm like, okay, I'm so bored, like you know what I mean? Because that's not how I operate, but I needed that. But that's not. I mean, that's not the way I teach.
Right.
That's not the way you teach either.
No, and we'll get to it later because you mentioned it earlier, that news article. Every school sends a student choreograph number and a faculty choreograph number. The year that I went, mine was the Janet Jackson Jazz Point.
I can't believe you did that. You guys didn't hear this. Okay, so what was the name of this event? I gotta look it up.
It was the American College Dance Festival.
That's huge.
You have to go to your regional first, and you take a student and a faculty piece.
So your faculty piece.
My faculty member was from the Utah Ballet.
Okay.
She did everything to orchestra music, and it was like contemporary modern Lamone on point.
Yes, I love Lamone though.
But like, just paint dry.
Yeah.
But the numbers, when she would set them on the students, would be interesting.
Yeah.
But it was
But they didn't have it.
She hated any music that was 4/4, 1, 2, 3.
What did she use? Step and a 6?
She used a 1, 2, 3, 4,
Yeah.
5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2.
Oh, God.
And she would do like 4, 6. It was always like classical, which is great. You need that, but you can't live in that realm. And if you do, it doesn't actually require a lot of evoking.
Yeah.
So she worked so hard on this number, and I was in her number, and then I had my number, and we went to
Janet Jackson thrash jazz.
Tribe. It was the song Tribe.
On point.
An amazing thing is yeah, so the girls were dressed in white tutus, but they were two pieces. They had white swan feathers, and they had swan headpieces on, pink tights that were ripped up, and then I used chicken wire, and I made a bra out of chicken wire, and the top of the tutu had chicken wire, and they had the mask over their face like this.
Oh,
and
my
there were
God.
feathers like.
Where is this video?
I don't know. I gotta find it somewhere.
Oh
It's
my
so
God.
old. It's probably VHS. But so the whole thing was like, the song sounds like opera, and then it's like angsty and wanting to rip out. And I love Janet Jackson, and I wanted it to be like how confining the world can be, ballet can be, when you just want to break out and like express yourself.
Yeah.
And I thought it was so great with Janet. Like it just said a lot about like feeling like you're stuck in a box.
Totally.
So I took it very seriously.
Yeah.
I like researched, I used pieces of like Swan Lake, I used Capelia, like several different ballets, like very famous scenes that people would recognize from ballet. I had like the little swans during one part, and I looped it in, so they would go in and out of ballet to like breaking out the line and going crazy, and they would end up back in like this perfect shape. And of course there were like feathers flying everywhere, and they were crazy. But I took it so seriously, and I thought it was so fierce. Like, they're so angry. And
well, it won, didn't it?
Yeah, it won regional and then it won national.
Yeah.
But like the thing, even now as an adult, and the thing that I didn't get, but I get now, is that the adults would say stuff like, the judges were like, they say something like, they thought it was hilarious. It was the most sophisticated ballet spoof they've ever seen. And that's when I'm always like, your choreography is like amazing, intricate lines. Mine is like honk honk boink boink, like it's all like gimmicks and clownery. That's kind of where I started feeling that way about myself. Like I know I can choreograph great, and I know my choreography is entertaining. Yeah. But I don't do tight formations, and I don't do intricate switches, and I don't do as much technical. It's more about the impact of the performance. Right. And so when they said that they thought it was like kind of funny, it made them laugh, I was like super insulted. Like I did all this research and I took it so seriously. I'm trying to express people who feel repressed. Yeah. And so I was just like, oh, that's interesting. Like it was the most sophisticated comedic spoof on ballet. It wasn't meant to be like a like a comedy. But I mean, our dancers thought it was fierce, and other dancers our age. Yeah. I mean, we're talking about first we're at University of Texas with a bunch of gray hair, like older dance teachers, and then we're at the Kennedy Center, which is also older people. So I get where older people would think it was kind of funny. Right. Because also, I mean, let's be honest, the girls are dancing and feathers are flying everywhere, so it was getting like chickens in a chicken coop at times. So I get that. But I was just like, I took it so seriously, even though it was jazz music, even though it was swans, even though it was on point. And I put a lot of thought into it, so yeah, that at first that hurt my feelings back then, but I was like, still won.
You still won, and now I have the question.
And I beat my teacher, my faculty member, and she was not happy.
Yeah. I have the question now about choreography then. Okay. About in the It Factor. Yeah. Because you were like talking about this person's other choreography, which is like, and you know, everybody likes what they like. But is there, I mean, it applies to dance, it also applies to choreography. Yeah, is there. No, somebody who doesn't have that, is not going to even take an artistic risk like that. They're not going to they're not going to be like, I'm doing, you know what I mean? Like, that's why it won. Box. Yeah. Yeah, crazy stuff like that. Yeah, I don't even know where, I just heard the song and I was like, oh, I love how this sounds like opera. Like, that'd be, and then it switches and it's hard guitar and like really rocky. And I was just like, this can go somewhere. What would I do with this? Yeah. And so then I thought of Swan Lake, and then I thought of Captive Swans, and then
I made all the costumes. I went
That's
and
wild.
bought the chicken wire and cut it and put it over the tutus and everything. So
I didn't even know you did that. That's a prestigious event.
it was amazing. Once we won in Austin district, our regionals, then I knew we were going to go compete against Harvard and like Florida and a couple of other. It was amazing because we got to go to DC.
Mm-hmm.
My number was performed at the Kennedy Center on stage. I had to go to rehearsal and tech with like Kennedy Center people.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was really involved with politics in Alabama as well. And so the governor's wife was a former dancer. And she like flew on a private jet up with like Secret Service.
Oh my God.
And came and like they saved her seats beside me.
Did they love it?
She loved it.
Oh
But,
my
like,
God.
She literally flew up on a private jet with like armed guards from Alabama that came in, like people with guns walked in, and she like came and sat next to me. I was like, I had to see this. I've heard about it, and like flew to DC for the
That's
day.
wild.
Saw me compete and win, and then flew back to Alabama.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it was just like such a big deal, and I didn't know it was a big deal. That's also kind of when you have it, when you don't put so much weight on yourself about it. It's just like, this is what I do.
Yeah.
And sometimes we can make it, this is what's expected of me, and that can kind of sabotage yourself, but it's not, I didn't feel the pressure. I was just like,
And being
it is what it
creative.
is. Like, that's my number. I love it.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, I won, and the reason why I thought about it was because all this stuff's going on at the Kennedy Center right now in the news, and I was just like, gosh, that seems like a million years ago. Like, my choreography was performed at the Kennedy Center.
It's such a big deal.
when
It's
I
still a
was
big deal.
20 years old.
That's
That was
wild.
my fourth number I ever choreographed. And I still, here I am, 44. I doubt myself as a choreographer. I don't hold myself in the same esteem as I do some of my peers and people that I see, and I admire their work. And that was my fourth number, and that was 23 years ago.
That's so.
Yeah.
How fast that happened for you? Like just from going into a dance class to choreographing an award-winning number at the Kennedy Center.
Choreographing so long now.
Yeah.
Yeah. My second year, they put me in. You know, you have to take 3 levels of choreography to get a degree, and every semester I had to do a number, and I just kept doing bigger and crazier stuff.
Yeah.
Like literally, they'd be like, "Oh God, here he comes again."
Wow.
I did Barbie dolls that came to life one time. Literally Aqua.
That's
in college.
so, oh my God, I love
And
that.
everyone would doubt my choices, but in the audience was like, "Live."
Because you have like it, whatever
I
you
know what the
do
audience
has
wants.
that. Yeah.
I think there was a big part of me that was always meant to be somewhat commercial,
Mm-hmm.
because I do literally thrive off of. I don't want applause for me. I want the audience to applaud because they're feeling it. Like
Yeah.
they feel something, and I love when they're like, "God, that was so awesome." Like, I love
Totally.
when they make me feel. It's not a narcissistic thing, so that's where my mind goes to. Like,
Yeah.
who's your audience? How are
Yeah.
they gonna feel about this?
Yeah.
You know.
That's a lot of what I've been saying when I'm watching dancers. I'm like, you have to think about what you want people to feel
Mm-hmm.
on top of what you're feeling so that you know how you want to affect people, how you want to inspire people.
Right, and like when you, at first I was like, oh, what about choreography and having it? How does that apply? I started thinking, and then it took a second, and people started populating. And that's when I thought about what I've told you before. Like, what's so nice is that when you get to a certain point in your career where I've seen so much dance,
Mhm.
I can almost predict what's going to happen next.
Totally.
Or I know what the story is, I know how this is going to end.
Mhm.
And like, anytime someone can swerve on me and make me like, gasp, or like,
Yeah.
oh my God, yes, oh, I can't believe that took me somewhere. Like,
Mhm.
I feel like I've been everywhere.
Yeah.
So when I see your work, it will take me somewhere, and I'm like, God,
Oh,
it's
thank
so
you.
fucking
Thank you.
good. And there are other people. I mean, Derek Huff is an amazing choreographer.
Yes.
Tyler Walls from So You Think You Can
Oh,
Dance.
Travis Wall?
Travis Walls.
Yeah.
Sorry, there are tons. I
Yes.
can't even like the people who have the it factor.
Mia Michaels.
Oh yes, yes.
Yeah.
When you see their work, it just like transforms you. Or you're like, I literally will watch your stuff and be like, where did that come from in your head? How did you get this vision? How did you? And I admire it and I love it, and it's still. I mean, I have a different it factor when it comes to choreography, but we all have our lanes, so like we do it. But yeah, so totally, there are totally choreographers that are like, they're good,
Yeah.
they're marketable.
Mark.
And there are. It's just like Dua Lipa, the celebrities.
Yeah.
They'll get picked up. They'll still get to do a Broadway show or two. They'll be one-hit wonders, but they won't be creating like, you know, Wade in the Water for Alvin Ailey, like a number that's so iconic that You can see one photograph and like
you know it. You feel it.
Feel the movement.
Yeah.
Totally. It. Let me make sure I didn't have anything for you about the it factor. When did you realize you had it?
That's what I'm saying. I think maybe I still.
You doubted. You had other factors that played into it.
We talked about this last time, and you were like, "What did you say to me?" You were like, "Oh, this is cute." Like you're finally like, what did you say? Writing your own magic. You're like learning your own magic.
You're a slow developer.
Yeah, I just
you're a late bloomer.
A late bloomer.
No, you always had it. You just had to deal with other factors. I mean, the
other
race
factors,
factor, community, environmental things. Those all taint what it is until you get a hold of it.
And I think, I think I know now, but I think I know now, especially now that I have kids and I can, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, oh, I can see how you are because of the way I am. And through students, like the way everybody, takes the stage and the way people, like the kids and the staff, like the way everybody is here, because you attract, you know, what you are if you're good at what you're doing. If you're magnetic in that way.
Right. Well, the good thing is, since you were a late bloomer, it's like having a palace. Like, there are still rooms you haven't explored yet.
So many rooms.
That's fun.
So many
I've been
rooms.
in another room. But also, the good thing about when you're my age is that then I can choose the ways that I find the most joy in using it.
Right.
And sorry about that.
No worries.
And the ways that will have the biggest impact on other people.
Yeah.
I know that I can change someone's day. I know that I can change someone's life. I know that I can leave a lasting impression on
Definitely.
people. So I feel good about myself when I make the choice, even when I'm tired or don't have the time to like remember.
Yeah.
Remember. Go unlock that dusty room you haven't used. Yeah, it's the it factor. So I don't know. I think it can be off-putting to people.
Yeah.
I don't think that we have to put a lot of extreme heavyweight or value in it that makes it a better person or more talented. It is just a different skill set that is like innate.
Yeah.
And if you have it, you're very, very lucky. And especially if you like to be around people.
Yeah.
Because that's what it ultimately does, is the magnetism that you mentioned. It draws people in. So some people might not really care they don't have it.
Do you tell a parent when their kid has it? Or when they don't?
And when they have it, yes. If they don't have it, no.
Yeah.
I mean, if they ask me, honestly,
yeah,
no one has ever asked me that.
Right. I don't think any.
Usually the parents of the kids who have it, they don't ask either. We end up telling them, like,
yeah.
The first time you see them at 5 years old when they steal the show at the recital, you're like,
what are you going to do with that?
What do you do?
Yeah. What are you going to do?
It's undeniable. Like I said, the other parents in the audience know too.
Yeah.
It's up to them to be like, you know what? The children are all special.
Yeah.
This one happens to have this like special dynamic. Wait till you see what your daughter's going to do as a surgeon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She's got it with those hands. She's going to save people's lives.
Totally.
Everybody has their thing that they will find it.
Yeah.
It's just that we all happen to be going to the dance studio at the same time, and, you know, not all of us can make it.
Yeah.
You know, and then you have to have it.
That was the conversation we had, and when he brought it up to me, I was like, I don't know how to answer this and be like totally PC about it. But he's like, he was like, some people aren't gonna make it. Like, some people just don't have what it takes. You just know, because he teaches also, not dance, but he teaches, and I was like, you're right.
Also, if you're their teacher, you know their work ethic and their potential. And I told a couple of my students the other day, they were talking about, they asked if they genuinely wanted to have a career. I said, you have to. I always say the people who make it are actually crazy.
Yeah.
And I don't mean it like when Mark tries to come at me sideways. And
yeah.
Stuff. What I mean is like you have to want it, and no one can tell you otherwise, and you have to live in a world of delusion.
Yeah.
That you're going to create it, manifest it, and start living in it immediately, and don't let anyone tell you no, because no one could ever tell me no.
Yeah.
There was no.
I think that's the it factor.
Kind of, yeah. It's delusion.
Those people that have that about them, that like, I can think of kids right now. They're like, I'm like looking at you, and they're like, I'm doing it. Like they just don't stop, and then I'm like, whoa, you did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and there are people that I think of in other aspects that other people are like, God, they're crazy.
Yeah.
Like they're so weird. Like,
yeah.
What a weirdo.
Yeah.
And I'm like, y'all better be careful because that is the one.
That's the one.
That's the Lady Gaga.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because I saw Lady Gaga in New York when I lived there in 2004, when she still had brown hair, and she would come in and play the piano.
Yeah.
And she performed in between two drag queens at a bar called Opaline, and the audience was basically almost booing her. But then she started performing, and you're like, oh wow, this girl can really, really sing. She just wasn't Lady Gaga then.
That's crazy.
And you're like, why did this weird girl come to the bar and like try to perform between drag queens? That weird girl was crazy enough that she wrote it out, and it was there.
Yeah.
So it's the ones that you're like, they're really nuts.
Yeah.
You better watch out, because they will turn it and end up being the next big thing, and then they're going to talk about how everybody in their hometown they never do it.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. It's so crazy. I was trying to think if I wrote down anything else.
I think the last thing, like, I just want to leave people with is, like, I still am a believer in hard work. I feel like if the it doesn't exist in you, I still think you can get really far, if not farther than most people, with a ridiculous, crazy work ethic. Because even people that have the it factor sometimes don't have the work ethic to go with it.
Squander.
And I would say that's like the biggest. You have to be so obsessed with something that, like you said, nothing's going to stop you, and you have to be willing to do the repetition with it to get where you want to go. So I don't think it's like a zero-sum situation where it's like, oh, you don't have it, quit. I still think it comes down to,
you can have a career in dance and not have the it factor, but you just have to decide, when I'm dancing, am I doing it because it brings me joy? If it does, fantastic. We all need that thing. And then you say, am I doing it because I feel a calling, like I love to bring joy to other people?
Yeah.
And then you've got to seriously analyze, like, are you doing what you think you're doing when you're performing? Because if not, that's a skill we can develop and work on, your performance ability and your ability to communicate with your eyes, your body, your expression. We can work on that. Yeah. And you could potentially have a career.
Yeah.
It's not the it factor, but you can. There are plenty of very good performers.
Yeah.
Who there's a place for them.
Yeah.
And if you're doing it for the audience, you have a chance at a career. If you're just dancing for yourself, most likely this is something that's going to kind of peter out. Yeah,
I'm going to use that word from now on. Like, I already know, like, inspiration. Like, I think for me, like, when you said that, I was like, that's it. Like, there's some people, you just watch them, it doesn't matter what they do. It's just inspiring.
It's because we focus on them, and that's why it seems like such a negative thing. They have it. They have it. They have it. And that human being only wants to, like, shine out to other people to make a difference. Yeah. And so we're being negative because we can't understand why we can't stop staring. And that person just needs room to show you what they can do. Yeah. So it's they're inspiring.
Oh, love it.
I love it too.
Yes!
I love chatting with you.
Yes, thank you.
Third time's a charm.
Third time. If you're mad about it, you can send us a DM.
If you're mad about it, don't come up to us in the club.
Yeah, right. Not in the club.
Yeah, no harm, no foul. Sorry, y'all.
We were nice.
Yep.
We were nice.
We need to do like some kind of like poll of the audience and see what they want the next topic to be.
Yes.
What else can we talk about?
Yes. Or if you're super triggered or interested in anything that we said today, tell us.
We can always talk about it.
Yeah, we can always talk about it. I feel like it's such a big conversation. I see it all the time.
But only ask questions and have conversations if you want to hear true responses.
Yeah, if you only want that real.
We'll be honest, but again, it doesn't define who you are. Yeah. Actually, it does if you have it.
Yeah, it does. And I anytime I'm in like
but
the
if you
dance,
don't, that doesn't define you. That's not a limitation. It just means you're not meant to reach the masses.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
it's not for everyone.
There's plenty of like people out there who have made an impact and they're great, and they had one great album, one big hit. Right. You know what I mean? They were around for a decade, and then they moved on, and that's okay. Yeah. That was what they did. But if you have it,
you're iconic.
You're like Cher.
Yes.
80 years old and still performing.
No matter how hard I try. I need to do some Cher.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god.
Join us next time.
Woohoo!